Hello, Math 3 students. So this is your IXL assignment for Thursday, August 27th. And you should have done your notes by now, so you're working on your IXL. This is absolute value equations. And just to review the steps in solving an absolute value equation, most of the time you're going to have two answers for an absolute value equation. So what you want to do is you want to isolate or get the absolute value part by itself. So this absolute value of j, you would want to get that by itself. And so you would do whatever you needed to do to this side and this side, just like you're solving an equation, but you just want to get this part by itself, the absolute value part. And then what you do is you separate it into two equations, and one of them you write it exactly like it looks, and the other one on the other side you put the part on the right, you make it its opposite. So let's do this one, and we're going to jump to a couple levels, and you have to get an 80 for this to get credit. But if you get above a 90, that's extra credit. So 91 would be 101 all the way up to 100. If you get 100, it'll be 110 in PowerSchool. So let's look at this one. We've got the opposite of the absolute value of j equals -1. And so if you think about it, this is like a -1 right here. So if I divide this by -1 on both sides, then this gets rid of this negative right here. So then I have absolute value of j equals 1. Okay, so then I've got it isolated. This is a pretty easy one. I can divide it into two different equations. And so j would equal 1 or j would equal -1. And so it's giving you room for both of the answers. And that's all there is to that one. So let me look at this one. We'll go ahead and do this one too. So we've already got the absolute value part isolated, so we can split this into two equations. -9m equals 9. So the first equation just looks exactly like this, except just get rid of the absolute value bars. And then the second equation, the left side always stays the same. It's the right side that you change to the opposite. So -9m equals 9, divided by -9, m equals -1. And then divide by -9 here, m equals 1. So your answers again are -1 and 1. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to jump a level. Get to some that are a little bit harder maybe. Okay, so with this one, what I would do is I would move this over here to the side. I would rewrite it as absolute value of j minus 2 equals 12. And then I would divide it into the two equations. J minus 2 equals 12, and j minus 2 equals -12. And over here, j would equal 14. And over here, j would equal -10 when you add 2 to both sides. 14. -10. All right, let's look at the next one. I'm going to, well, so this one would have, if we solve this one, so they're wanting to know, does this have no solution, one solution, or two solutions? Well, you look at it and you think, okay, I've got an absolute value symbol here and I've got a negative number over here, but I've got a negative here. So what I would do is I would divide both sides by -1, and then when I did that, I would have absolute value of n equals +8. So it would be n equals 8 or n equals -8, so that's two solutions. Let's see. Let's jump another level here. Make it a little bit more difficult. Okay, so first thing I would do is I would rewrite the whole thing, putting this part on the left. Then I would isolate this part right here, the d part. So 6 times absolute value of d equals, that's going to be 18. Divide by 6. Absolute value of d equals 3. So that means it's isolated now, so I can break it up into two equations. I don't need to do any solving. So D equals 3 or negative 3. Okay. I'm going to, well, actually, let's look at this one. This is a good one. So I'm going to rewrite this. So what happens when I subtract the 8 over here? I get absolute value of n equals 0. Well, since there's no opposite of 0, if I put it into two equations, it would just be n equals 0. So in this case, there's only one solution. We'll do this one too. So let's see, I'm going to switch this. It goes over there. Okay, so what I'm trying to do, as always, is I'm trying to isolate this part right here. So I can just think of that as being like just one variable or whatever. And I can divide by 8 on both sides. Still equals 0. So negative 6c equals 0. Negative 6c equals, there is no opposite of 0, so there's only one solution here. Even though they have a place for two solutions, you only have to put one in. C just equals 0. So you only have to put one in, and it's not going to count it wrong if you only put one number in there. Okay. Okay, and this one, same thing. We're going to divide by negative 9 on both sides. We still have a 0 over here. So this one only has one solution too, because there's no opposite of 0. So it's just one solution there. And we're already up to a 72. Yeah, we'll do this one too. So I'm going to switch this around. I like for my variables to be on the left. I need to isolate this part right here. That part right there. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And then I can make it into two equations. I already know it's going to be two solutions, but let's just make sure. F minus 2 equals 2, and F minus 2 equals negative 2. This is going to be F equals 4, and this is F equals 0. So even though 0 is one of the solutions, it's still two solutions. The only way there's one solution is if you get a 0 on this side. Okay, this one's interesting. So I have the absolute value of negative u equals 8. So it's isolated, but I'm going to write it exactly like it looks in here. I'll pull it out of there. I'm going to write it exactly like it looks. So the opposite of u, in other words, negative 1u equals 8. And then negative 1u equals negative 8. So just divide by negative 1 on both sides. And that's going to be u equals negative 8. Divide by negative 1. That is u equals positive 8. So negative 8 and positive 8. Oops. All right, we're at a 78, so we're almost at that 80. Okay, so unless you're going to end up with a 0 over here, it's going to have two solutions. Nope, I take that back. Because you've got a negative number here, I'm going to just rewrite it just so we can look at it. B minus 7, absolute value of B minus 7 equals negative 86. And you remember I told you that if you have the absolute value symbol isolated and you have a negative number here, there's no solution. Because it's not possible to have an absolute value that's negative. Okay, so we're at the 80 now. We'll try to, you know, we'll go ahead and jump another level here and see what we get. Okay, so we're in the challenge round. Okay, these look good. I'm going to switch this around though. -6 times absolute value of b plus 1 plus 8 equals -12. So I'm going to highlight this. This is what I need to get by itself right here. So if this was like -6x plus 8, I would subtract the 8 first, and that's what I'm going to do. Oops, pen. Okay. So subtract 8 from both sides. This thing's being slow. -6. Absolute value b plus 1. Absolute value equals, that's going to be -20. I think. Yep. Okay, and then we're going to divide by -6. We don't have to finish it. We just need to find out if it's got a solution. I think I did that right. Let's see. -8. Let me make sure I copied everything right. I think I did. Okay, so this is going to be absolute value of b plus 1 equals, this is going to be 20/6, which is 4/3. No. 10/3. 10/3. It doesn't matter. But we can set this up 2 different ways, so it's going to be 2 solutions. All right. I'll do one more because this is not the 1 solution, 2 solution thing. So let's see. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And then I can set up 2 equations. -5w minus 6 equals 8. -5w minus 6 equals -8. All right, so that's -5w equals, that's going to be 14. And if it's fractions, it's fine. Divide by -5. W equals -14/5. Okay, and then this one's going to be -5w equals, add 6 over here, -2. Divide by -5. W equals 2/5. Let's try that and see if we got it right. And that's the last one I'm going to do. And you can use the / for the fraction bar. -14/5 and 2/5. All right, and that's all we're going to do on that. So you at least get an 80. If you want to go higher than that, you can. And once you get above 90, that would be above a 100 in PowerSchool. And again, Canvas conference today will be more office hours. So if you have questions or you want me to help you with any of these, you can show up to Canvas conference and ask me questions about any assignment from this week.